The SEC going to break away from the NCAA. It sounds extreme, but when you look at the money and the power, that's going
Power on
on
the
in
money.
college football, it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. We'll break that down. Plus, there's a meeting involving President Trump and the future of college football or college athletics. Georgia players are landing massive NFL contracts, and we'll give an outlook on the Georgia Bulldogs tight end room heading into the 2026 season. And welcome to the Nitro College Football Show. I'm Burl.
And I'm Street.
And today we are starting with something that could completely reshape college football, the possibility of the SEC breaking away from the NCAA. Some people think it's inevitable. Others think it'll be a disaster for the sport. Let's break it down.
Yeah, it's something that, people have joked about a lot. But then Greg Sankey went on Paul Feinbaum this week, and it kind of came up. Greg Sankey said that some of the colleges within the SEC now are already calling for the idea because they're frustrated with all of the NIL, the transfer portal, the lack of real rules that are controlling things. And some of the schools in the SEC are already reaching out and are in favor of it. Now, Greg Sankey said he's against it. He has turned away kind of the idea right now. But this was his quote. He said, "We've taken what has been a historically regional sport in college football in particular and used a platform of great region in our 12 states and elevated the interest to a national level. That doesn't mean I just think you leap to something, because I think that's filled with its own political and legal and relational realities." So he's being real about it. But when you have schools in the SEC with money and they're talking, as the head of that conference, he's dang sure listening.
Yeah, it'd be a huge, massive departure from what we're used to. And it makes me wonder, like, how do you crown a national champion if that were to happen?
Well, I don't think you do. I don't think you care. The idea of a national
whoever wins
championship,
your conference is your champion, and that's it.
you got to figure. Well, you got to figure that if something like this happens, right, that there's also going to be a Big Ten mega conference as well. Like this doesn't happen to the SEC. If the SEC pulls the plug and does this, the Big Ten's going to do it too. And at that point, you're left with two mega conferences. So maybe at that point, it's the leagues play on their own rules and everything, and they get together at the end of the year and they send their top team. It's almost like
a playoff?
The BCS.
The BCS? Or what I always thought the playoff should be, who throw out your conference champions into the playoff and let them battle it out. That's it.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. Yep. So the question is, though, is this realistic for the SEC? And, if you think about it, yeah, the SEC itself could thrive on its own, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I think you would easily get. I would think you would see the ACC just dissolve,
right,
if that were to happen, because Florida State and Clemson have been trying to leave for a decade at this point, it seems like, and Miami. They're probably willing to make that jump too.
Yeah, but just in terms of without adding anybody. Let's just say they just broke off right now as is. No changes to the conference. Could the SEC viably survive on its own? I think absolutely. The interest is clearly there. The SEC draws huge television ratings. They have their own television contract. They are essentially in bed with ESPN. ESPN owns their entire block of contracts. All SEC games are always on ESPN. The
SEC is not catering to the Northeastern audience either.
Right.
Which is honestly a huge swing in the SEC's favor, because you look at the NFL and a lot of other professional sports leagues, they rely heavily on the New York, the LA markets.
Right. Well, and that's the other point of it, though. The SEC has brand loyalty within its states. That's one of the things that Sankey talks about, is that the SEC, despite all its geographical stretches, are still all connected. Even when they've added schools, every state within the SEC right now as it exists touches. So you still are technically regional. And if you wanted to focus your attention on just that region and that area, you could do it, because that's how the old SEC was. The SEC became this powerful conference because of loyalty, because you have 100,000 people filling these huge stadiums, and because you have, even when we were talking about it with Lou Holtz last week, when South Carolina was coming off of 1-21 over 2 years, and they fill in their 85,000 seat stadium with roaring people. That doesn't happen in the NFL. Hell, by the end mid-season, for teams that are bad year in and year out, look at the Falcons. By the middle of the year, the game might be a
used
sellout.
to that with the Falcons.
Right, but the game might be sold out, but it ain't sold out in the crowd. You can see,
No, the only time that stadium ever fills up is if Georgia and Alabama are playing in it, or if it's like the Chiefs, Packers, or New England.
Right.
Or the Bills. I'll give the Bills credit there too.
Yeah. But what would that do? So if you broke away, well, what could you do? Well, first and foremost, all this bullcrap about we don't know what the rules, and people are trying to skate around the rules, and there are no rules, and suing, that would be out the door, because the SEC, having those schools in their membership, they chose to join the SEC. So whatever the SEC brass says goes. You don't like it, kick rocks, get out. You're going to follow the letter of what we say,
as the kids say.
Yeah, I mean, so they will get total control of that day one. Two, I mean, hell, they break away. They're not part of the NCAA. They want to start paying players as employees. They can do it. They absolutely can. If they want to let the players create a players association so they can have real contracts and real negotiations, they can do it. And kids can join the SEC, not join the NCAA out of high school. And they can make their money there. And you know what that's going to do? I think that's going to drive a lot more money into the conference. The fringe programs that aren't in one of those, let's say there's 2 mega conferences who aren't in those schools, they may have money, but that's not where you're going to really make your money. And hell, maybe within the conference, you come in as a player, and maybe your contracts let you free to transfer within the conference. If you're going to let kids transfer anyway, maybe you keep them in the conference. Maybe you have some type of deal.
Well, I mean, if the SEC were to do something like this, I would imagine that they would clamp down on the transfer rules.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, removing the unlimited transfers. Because right now it literally is unlimited. Like, you transfer even when you're transferring.
Right.
And that's a weird thing to say, but
you can go to class one day and then transfer. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, it's so wild. Yeah, that would be really interesting. And the traditionalist, though, in me doesn't want to see it happen, because
right.
What happens to the rest of college football? Right. Obviously, we said like the Big Ten will continue to grow, because Big Ten and SEC are going to do exactly the same things, always and forever.
What I think happens, if this happens, it's like I said, I think there will be another mega conference that'd be the Big Ten. They're not going to be the mega conferences in the sense that they will have more teams than they have now, but I don't think this is going to be something where it's 50 teams in each conference. If this happens, it's going to be limited. It's going to become the exclusive big boys club that you want to be in. And if you're going to be in it, you're going to have to spend the money to be able to compete. There's no more of this. There's no more of this. You're not going to have good facilities. You're not going to keep up with everybody. To be in this, you're going to be committed. Everybody's going to spend money. Maybe
that would be the catalyst for getting a true relegation system.
Yeah,
in college football.
You could see something like that long term. Mm-hmm. But at the initial, let's say it's 24 teams in each league, so 48. You're really looking at the 48 elite teams, which is probably what it should be anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it really does turn into like NFL light, because right now you got, in the NFL, you got AFC, NFC.
And then, you know
And
what?
this would be SEC, Big Ten, the North versus the South.
Right. If all the
So
money
many
goes
jobs.
if all the money goes there, then maybe, what's left of college football can return to college football again.
Yeah, maybe that's the ticket to getting back to some more traditional things, because we've talked about this before, but bowl games are meaningless and have been for a while now. Maybe there's a way to get those to have some more meaning if you have, basically a smaller pool of elite teams.
Right. Right.
So yeah, anything else? So let's talk about if the SEC did do this.
Yep.
So I mentioned Clemson, Florida State, Miami. Who else do you think would be in the mix for joining the SEC?
Well, you'd want to balance, so you'd go get North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily getting Duke, but you may bring them in. But hey, there might be some current schools that might be kicked out too.
Duke did win the ACC.
True. I mean, North Carolina is an obvious one. Virginia Tech is probably an obvious one. But you may,
they, though?
Yeah, I think they are in terms of historical clout. But beyond that, maybe a Louisville, somebody like that.
Louisville makes a lot of sense because obviously you got the Kentucky rivalry right there, and it's a decent sized city too.
And then you'd probably pull in the big powers out of the Big 12, the bigger powers. You'd probably pull in your Texas Tech, and maybe your rising powers, SMU, who's got money. That's what it boils down to.
Maybe, but Texas Tech, I could potentially see, just because all the other Texas schools are already there,
right?
Like the major Texas school, I should say.
It would be interesting.
Well, yeah. So let us know in the comments if there was a true college football super conference, which teams absolutely have to be in it, and who should be left out. That's a good one too.
Or who should be kicked out.
Who should be kicked out? Yeah, because whoever's in the SEC right now doesn't mean that they should stay in the SEC.
Missouri, I'm looking at you.
I know. We would immediately say Vandy, but not anymore.
They have money.
They got money. Oh man. And so when these conversations about the future of college football start getting big, they don't just stay inside the sport. Which brings us to the recent meeting involving President Trump and the discussion about the future of college athletics. So tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so President Trump, in the midst of everything else that's going on in the world, decided it was an important time to have 50 plus prominent figures in the world of athletics come to Washington and talk a little bit about the state of college sports. And, what it boiled down to was, in Trump's opinion, it's gotten out of hand. It's a mess. NIL and the transfer portal and how everything is being done is not good. And lots of people have been critical of a lot of the people who did speak at this meeting. Nick Saban talked at this meeting. Urban Meyer talked at this meeting. And Nick Saban talked about, one of his things was it was important to have students who developed themselves into careers. And of course, the discourse online is, well, you made $12 million and you guys were paying everybody under the table anyway, and blah, blah, blah. And it's not fair. And, of course, the same rhetoric. But I don't really think that was what this conversation was about. The conversation.
Not at all. I mean, and that was a little annoying. Like, I almost said frustrating, but it was just more annoying than anything, because you see Nick Saban out there saying, what he said, but he started like we would always start and say, I'm for the players getting paid, but it
Right.
seems like everybody glossed over that point.
Right. Well, and the point in a lot of what was said is not so much that about football. That's what everybody thinks about when they think about this, but it's the idea that if they continue down this current path, that Olympic sports and women's sports and other things are just going to die because the current system of NIL, it was supposed to be NIL, name, image, and likeness. It wasn't supposed to be pay for play, but now really it is becoming pay for play, but it's unregulated. And the rise in the amount of money that it costs to compete has gone through the roof exponentially. And it's the ramifications of that are going to be to the other sports. If these colleges to compete have to spend all this money on football and all this because that's the sport that makes your most money, and that's what you have to do to compete, it's going to end up taking shots at these other sports and other leagues. And they're right. On that front, they are absolutely right.
100% agree. I mean, that's been, my biggest talking point, like when arguing with people on Twitter, because you still have Title IX is still in effect, right? Like that's still a thing.
As far as I know.
Yeah. So when the money starts drying up, you're going to see not just any old random sport gone. You're going to see a women's sport and a men's sport.
Or you're going to start seeing men's sports, Olympic men's sports go first because football's a big roster sport.
Yeah, it'll all go the way of intramurals, and
right. So
that will
swimming,
tennis,
track and
field. If
you
love watching the Olympics and seeing the U.S. just dominate, getting gold medals,
yeah,
you kind of need this,
right? And the other point Nick Saban had was that we have lost focus about the academic piece of this. There's just no, there's no, it's not even talked about anymore. They don't talk about academics. They just talk about the money, what they're getting paid. And you can see it in Nick Saban. That's one of the reasons he's retired, right? He said,
absolutely.
He said in 17 years, his goal was to help them develop a career as a football player, not necessarily a career playing football. He said that was our goal, that we were creating value in life and we were preparing them for their futures past athletics. So what happened? Well, what happened? Money, right?
Same thing that always happens.
So a lot of the arguments, the one thing that people did, and this is a valid criticism that people had online, was there's no players. But how can you have players involved? I mean,
I know if there's no CBA, there's no players union. Yeah. I mean, it was weird that there were so many people. There was like 50 people at this thing. I don't think you needed 50 people.
Right. Well, but at the end of the day, what does this tell us? Well, this tells us stuff that we already know. That this whole situation is just an absolute mess. I mean, hell, we still have the Trinidad Chambliss situation going on, the saga that will never end, that the NCAA came back and is now, filing a countersuit or whatever with like a 600-page document. What was in that 600 pages, bro?
Pot gummy recipes.
I mean, I was thinking it was copies of the autographs that, Chambliss signed in the back of the courtroom. Like, that will never end. Then we had today, the Big Ten came out and encouraged the NCAA to stop looking at accusations of tampering with players because they never find anything and it's just a waste of time. Like, you've got information coming about the NIL Go and the fact that they've only...
It's not that they don't find anything. It's that they don't do shit about it.
Right. Well, you had information about NIL Go coming out that NIL Go was not meant to handle essentially pay-per-play NIL deals. Well, duh. And they've only, in the year or whatever that it's been in place, they've only approved like $130 million in NIL deals. I mean, we had like teams that we know were paying like $25 million, $30 million rosters. Come on, $125 million for all of the NCAA. Come on, man. Like it's a mess. The system that's in place is broken. And if you don't think it is, and you hate Trump or politics or whatever, and that makes you mad and you want to be against it, that's fine. But stop lying to yourself. It's a mess.
Yeah. And one of the other big arguments, I actually kind of got in a little thing with Dan Wolken because he was saying that, oh, this is ridiculous. Nothing will come of it because no one's going to pass anything, which I don't disagree with that part. But I asked him the question, okay, well, what's your solution? And he gave me this whole thing, like, oh, we're going to do this and that. And I followed up. I was like, yeah, but who's going to make it happen? Because that's the contention. That's the point. No one thinks that the government can do anything because they can't.
Right.
It takes two to tango.
The government could do something.
And they ain't doing it.
Right. The government could do something, but the NCAA is too scared to press it because they're too scared of losing their tax exemption status. And it's left with President Trump could sign executive orders like he joked that he was going to do. Well, joked. I mean, he said he was going to do it, but is it going to be enforced? Probably not. So
no, I mean, he said immediately, he's like, yeah, it's going to get sued and
right.
Probably shot down. But the one thing I will say for it is at least they're talking about it and trying to get something done, at least, because trying to do something is better than not doing anything.
Right.
Because not doing anything is still a choice.
It is. Apathy is a choice.
Yeah. And I, for one, am not, I can't, I don't like that. I like to see at least someone trying, whether it's, I agree with how they're doing it or not. I'll give them credit where credit's due. Okay. So if you enjoy these college football discussions, like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes or any dumb stuff that we might say. It's always fun. But let us know what you think in the comments or chat about this whole future of college sports. What do you think is the biggest thing that people are not talking about? Okay, so with that, while we're trying to figure out, what the future of college sports looks like, those Georgia Bulldogs keep putting players in position to get paid at the next level. So let's talk some dogs. And so the latest example of this is one 3-star recruit, mind you, Jordan Davis becoming the highest paid nose tackle in NFL history.
Yep. And it's not just Jordan Davis cashing in. We'll get to the other guys in a minute, but first it starts at the top with Jordan Davis. This is a guy who, was a huge man, crazy big guy, crazily successful at Georgia, had a great career, helped Georgia win a national championship, first round draft pick, part of the Philly Dogs up there, but kind of was seen as a little bit of a disappointment early in his career. Some people were labeling him a bust even. But last year, he went into the season, and I think he was not he wasn't given that 5th year on his first rounder contract. So he was really in a pay-per-play year last year. And if you notice, he came into camp in shape last year. He'd slimmed down and had a breakout year for him. Absolutely great. And it earned him a huge extension with the Eagles. $78 million over 3 years, $65 million guaranteed. And as you mentioned, makes him the highest paid nose tackle in the history of the NFL at an average salary of $26 million a year.
That is phenomenal, AJ Styles right there.
Yeah. And let's just say that this guy earned it. This is all the things that he had in his last season. He set a career high in tackles with 72, sacks at 4.5, tackles for loss at 9, passes defended at 6 for an Eagles team that was the defending Super Bowl champ that won the NFC East before they fell in the playoffs. And he did a lot of this in this year when Jalen Carter was hurt part of the year and was in and out of the lineup some.
Probably helped his numbers.
Maybe, but
still, I know. I mean,
but he did it without the other guy who took a lot of attention.
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
when I hear a nose tackle getting 72 tackles, that seems like a pretty high number for a nose tackle.
Yeah. Yeah. So just an impressive thing. And a lot of what talked about him getting this contract was not just his production on the field. It was that he'd emerged as a really respected leader in that locker room this year. A fourth-year player. And that's what he was at Georgia, a
Exactly.
leader,
Yeah.
a guy directing the band, the guy who, when Georgia won the national championship, got up there and
Yeah,
spoke at the national championship parade
yeah,
and
people
represented the team.
people were saying Jordan Davis became the highest paid red coat in history.
Yeah. So, I mean, great news for him, and obviously great for the Georgia program. But that was just the first of the news this week that continues to reinforce the idea that at the University of Georgia, while other schools are promising money now, Georgia is promising contracts in the future. And the proof is there.
Yeah. Generational wealth.
Right. So after Jordan Davis signed this extension on the first day of free agency, his former Eagles teammate, Nakobe Dean, who has had an up and down career with the Eagles, has been hurt a lot, but really has produced well when he's gotten a chance to play. Well, he signed a 3-year, $36 million deal with the Raiders. And the Raiders liked him so much that they re-signed former Georgia cornerback Eric Stokes to a 3-year, $30 million deal. And they went out and got Quay Walker from the Packers on a 3-year deal for $40.5 million. So on the first day of free agency, the Raiders invested in 3 former Georgia players to the tune of what? $106 million. Wow,
Man. I mean, it's a smart move because you look at what Philly's done. Obviously, a lot of success there on the defense. And then the Packers, another great example. Just just looking at defensive players. I mean,
right. Well, Stokes was on the Packers, and he kind of struggled. He kind of struggled, bet on himself, and went to the Raiders on a 1-year deal last year, and had his best year of his career.
Yeah, but I mean, Quay Walker was there.
Right. Devontae Wyatt's still there.
Devontae Wyatt, safety.
Javon Bullard.
Yes, Javon Bullard.
Your boy, Javon Bullard.
I know. That's why I'm so mad at myself. It's like he's the best.
But the good news is not done in this free agency year of guys that were important to, Georgia's national championship teams there. So George Pickens is considered the top receiver in free agency. Now he's not a free agent because the Cowboys have decided to put the franchise tag on him. But what does that mean? That means that he's going to make at least $27.2 million next year.
Yeah, because that's what, top 3? You got to be in the top
3.
3?
It's average top 5, I think.
Okay.
So, and then one of the top available tackles that has not signed yet is Jamari Salyer, obviously left tackle on the national championship team. He was listed in ESPN's top 100 free agents. And then today, the Atlanta Falcons, who in the past have been hesitant to pick up Georgia players, picked up 2 Georgia Dogs, signing Channing Tindall and Azeez Ojulari to contracts with the Falcons. So it's been a banner start.
That puts 3 on the Falcons.
3 at the Falcons linebackers room. You throw in Jalen Walker. So
yeah,
and Charlie Warner's still there too. So you actually have 4 Falcons now. Leonard Floyd was on the team last year, but he's probably gone with the signing of Tindall. He's probably gone.
I was really hoping that the Falcons were going to pick up Nakobe Dean to kind of make up for not picking him up the first time.
Yeah. I think if Nakobe Dean wouldn't have went to the Raiders, I think he was headed to the Cowboys. I think both of them were in hot.
I mean, I don't blame him for avoiding Atlanta like the plague.
Right.
I mean, they did draft Troy Anderson instead of Nakobe Dean.
They did just sign Tua Tagovailoa. So
that too. But that was the breaking point for me as a Falcons fan. Traditionally, like I'm done. I can't.
Yeah. So like I said, at the end of the day, what does this say? Georgia has continued to try to promote amongst its players that we're here to develop you and get you to the NFL, and it's there. This historic class that won a national championship at Georgia and won a second one. Look at the guys from that class and look what they're doing. There are dogs at top levels getting paid all over the NFL. And so once again, the question becomes long-term. Are you just chasing a quick paycheck in college and you're going to go bounce around? Are you wanting to go somewhere that's going to develop you? And if I'm a kid that wants to work hard and knows that I want to bet on myself, there ain't no better place than the University of Georgia.
Absolutely. I think what'll be interesting is to see where Damon Wilson ends up in the draft next year. Because he's one of those guys.
This year, he got a lot of money to go to Miami and not go in the draft this year.
Oh, I know. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up and how his career plays out compared to the what if he had stayed at Georgia.
Right.
I mean, he would have been right there. I mean, as a leader on that defense. So
he'd probably be in the NFL though, or he'd be in the draft this year.
He would, and
he wouldn't have needed to take Miami's money because he'd probably be already getting paid.
Yeah. Yep. But that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yep.
So, which Georgia player do you think is going to be the next to land a massive deal? And who?
I mean, there's one obvious one is Jalen Carter. Now, when they re-signed Jordan Davis, there was some rumors that Philly might be looking to trade him, just because they know that they've obviously promised a lot of money to Jordan Davis. And they promised a lot of money to their linebacker. Of course, they've got Nolan Smith will be a free agent after next year as well. And they really like him. They obviously let Nakobe walk. So they got a lot of guys to spend money on. So Jalen Carter will be a free agent after next year. I'm sure he's going to get a huge deal somewhere.
I would, if I'm a GM, I'm paying him whatever it takes.
Well, if they're offering him up, I mean, a couple first round picks, sure.
Yeah. I mean, he was the force on the national championship teams, and he was the force on the Super Bowl championship team.
Right.
So it's that dude is next level. Kind of crazy, but you got to be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the scary part of all this is for the rest of college football is that Georgia's roster pipeline, it doesn't look like any of this growth is slowing down at all. Kirby is still grinding and signing talent, and in this past recruiting cycle picked up even more top flight tight ends. So if you're looking to see why Georgia continues to win and develop players, the one position group that we can look at that we're going to talk about is the tight end room, because it's absolutely stacked.
Yeah, it's an absolute monster factory that we have at Georgia. And next year, honestly, we've had years where we had Brock Bowers. We've had great tight ends for years. We've had Isaac Nauta. We brought in Trey McKitty. We had Charlie Warner, who's in the NFL, John Fitzpatrick, who spent time in the NFL,
Randy McMichael, Ben Watson.
But I'm just saying under Kirby.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if we've ever had a tight end room deeper than what Georgia might have in Athens next year. And it all starts at the top. The senior, the returner, Lawson Lucky. Now, Lawson Lucky this year, his numbers were down a little bit from his sophomore year. But let's not forget what this guy was. When he came to school, 4-star tight end, number 8 tight end overall, number 145 in the country, class of 2023. So far in his career, 41 catches, 515 yards, 8 touchdowns. But let's look a little bit.
Maybe the best hands on the team, though.
Maybe. And none bigger than that Ole Miss game this year. 3 touchdown catches in that thrilling victory at home. He's an experienced leader on the team.
Also, the SEC championship against Texas, that catch he caught in the second half, Gunner's first real big throw downfield. I mean, That was an amazing catch. Right.
And, we've had great tight ends, but Brock Bowers was more of a quiet guy, And Oscar Delp was a good team guy. But I think next year, you're really going to see Lawson Lucky be a senior leader on this team. If you've ever seen any of the sideline videos, like when Gunner had to come in that SEC championship game, Lawson Lucky was right there talking him up.
He was the most vocal of
right.
anybody.
I think he said, if you have as much faith in yourself as I do in you, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So right there, big future for him. I think this is going to be a big year for him. So let's talk about outside of Lawson Lucky. The rest of the tight ends are not quite as known. The most experienced in terms of years at school tight end after Lawson Lucky next year is Jaden Reddle. Now, he's kind of the less talked about guy in the room, but he's definitely got those physical talents that you want as a tight end. Seen him more in the blocking game some, but I expect him to have, a step up in his role this year. He was another top 10 tight end in the country in the class of 2024.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like a hidden gem at this point, because there's a lot of people that are really high on him and what he brings to the table. I think the biggest thing going into the season is, will Bobo make getting the ball to the tight end a priority?
Yeah, it was weird this year. As much as there was criticism for Gunner not going down the field, he didn't really throw it to the tight ends all that much.
No.
And I guess it was a lot because Branch was that guy. But Reddle comes in. Reddle's got 3 career catches in 2 years. He is technically a redshirt sophomore. So I think we're going to see a rise of him. The other tight end from that 2024 class was Colton Heinrich. He's still on campus. He is definitely more of your traditional blocking tight end. He appeared in 4 games last year, mostly as a blocker. I don't think you're going to see him be much involved in the pass game, but you've got to have those good blocking tight ends. So those are the guys that have been on campus now for a few years. But what really gets me excited is the two guys who were freshmen last year, and then the 2 guys that we got coming in. So let's first start off with a guy that last year, when I went to G-Day and I was at the dog walk, this guy walked by and I was like, that guy's different than everybody else walking by. And that's Elias Williams. This guy in the class of 2025, the number 1 tight end, number 36 overall player, 6'7", 245. Yeah, he's 6'7".
Yeah.
Sometimes you see guys. Yeah, sometimes guys are listed as 6'7". Yeah, they're 6'5".
He's probably 7 foot because apparently Georgia is like 3 inches short on the measuring stick for.
Yeah.
Colby Young. If y'all don't know, Colby Young was listed as like 6'2", but was measured at 6'5" at the combine, which is hilarious.
Yeah. So, we saw him a little bit last year. He made that crazy catch against Mississippi State. He had 3 catches against Kentucky, 7 catches on the year, and 1 touchdown. I think this is a guy that if you're looking for, he's not as physically large as Darnell Washington was, but he gives you that same height.
And
I think this is a guy that you're going to see fill in some of those holes left by Colby Young and Nolan Thomas. Big body guys.
And you kind of saw that a little bit last year because a lot of the routes that he was running was that wheel route down the sideline. That was pretty much as the go-to for him.
Right.
But I want to see him get the ball over the middle for those 3rd down catches, kind of replace that 3rd down presence that Branch had.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other tight end who was a freshman last year was Ethan Barbour. And we didn't get to see a lot of him because he had that horrific injury where he broke his leg and it was disgusting. But if you need to know how much of a freak this kid was, came back and played in the playoff game against Ole Miss after that disgusting injury.
Yeah. And on top of that, but even before the injury, true freshman playing on day 1.
Right. And out of high school, high pedigree too, like Williams, 4-star, number 12 tight end in the country, 220 overall. And we saw some flashes that he made a couple catches in G-Day last year. He's quick. He's big. he's not. Elias Williams is thin and tall. This guy is big, but he can move. Another guy that I think you'll see involved both as a blocker and, as a pass catcher, maybe taking a little bit of the role that Oscar Delp had this year. Not catching as many passes, but blocking, but still being valuable and can get the ball and run a little bit. So excited to see him.
How tall is he?
6'3", I want to say.
I thought he was taller.
I could be wrong. Ethan Barbour.
I don't know, because I don't know. He
6'3", 225.
Okay. So yeah, he's got the I guess the bulk. So if you were to put him and Elias Williams together, then you would get Darnell Washington.
Right. So, and then, on top of all that, then Georgia went out and they brought in 3 more tight ends in this class of 2026. All 3, one of them a 5-star and 2 4-stars. So it wasn't like they were just taking guys off the street either. And it's funny because the lowest rated guy, Braden Fogel, number 15 tight end in the country, 6'3", 230. Not expecting a lot from him because he's kind of the lower guy on the totem pole. But the other 2 guys that we brought in, now we can see them get involved pretty quick. First, let's talk about Lincoln Keys, freshman, 4-star tight end, number 8 tight end in the country, 6'6", 245.
Big boy.
Yeah. Already considered polished as a blocker. But he's also, as described, sneaky athletic and a very good route runner. So we can see him get involved. But I think if you're going to see one kid really get involved as a freshman, it's the 5-star Caden Prothero. Now, this guy, don't know if he's necessarily going to be a tight end or more of a receiver. He's one of those guys that's big, but he can go down and catch the ball. 6'5", 215, 5-star, number 2 tight end in the country. He set the state of Georgia touchdown reception record with 66 touchdowns in high school.
He seems built like what was his name? He just went to San Francisco.
I don't know. George Kittle.
Why am I blanking on his name right now? All right, come back to me. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. So, like I said, he may end up playing more of a receiver type position. I listed as a tight end, but definitely, tall and thinner, but definitely athletic. And like I said, a record setter in the state of Georgia. And, people already are saying that he could be, a Brock Bowers, George Pickens type, which, yes, yeah. That's saying a lot. But when you score 66 touchdowns in high school and you're huge and you can catch and, you're going to be a red zone target. Yeah.
So he reminds me like similar build as Mike Evans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just freak athlete, big dude, can do all the things.
Yeah. So like I said, this tight end room, I mean, it's the worst ranked kid in all of this is Colton Heinrich, who's a blocking tight end. Every other kid in this room is a 4-star, top of their class at the position. We've got Lawson Lucky, the veteran, the leader. We got Elias Williams, who we got a little taste of last year. We've seen some of the stuff from Barbour. And then you got the promise of these freshmen coming in. Todd Hartley continues to every year build this crazy, insane room. And I think for the success of Georgia next year, we don't have as much experience in the wide receiver room as we've had in the past. I think, the leading returning receiver on the team is what, London Humphreys, so you're going to have to rely somewhere. And I think for the development of Georgia, the development of Gunnar Stockton, if he can use those tight ends, because he was hesitant to throw the ball down the field, but if you can throw to tight ends over the middle who catch passes, look what Brock Bowers did for Stetson Bennett. My God, we could be set up for a huge year.
Well, just look at what Oscar Delp did when the few times he got the ball thrown to him.
Right.
I mean, it's there, and Georgia definitely has the talent.
Yeah.
But that's the big question. Are they going to use him?
I hope so.
Yep. So let us know in the comments who's been your favorite Georgia tight end over the years. Obviously, Brock Bowers is probably everybody's favorite. Hard to argue against that. So who besides Brock Bowers has been your favorite Georgia tight end over the years?
A personal favorite is old Leonard Pope, because he was just a mammoth of a man.
Leonard Pope don't write papers.
But
that is a true quote.
Can't make that up.
Good stuff. Yeah, that was a large man.
Indeed. And he saved somebody from drowning. So
yeah. Had a decent NFL career. Okay, so if you're still with us, thanks for watching. Like this video, hit that subscribe button. If you love college football, come chat with us every week. We're here talking football, especially the Dawgs. If you're a Georgia fan and you're not subscribed, I'm kind of disappointed. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Okay, so last thing for the night, kind of a fun topic. If you care about rivalries and traditions and all that, logos are right up there too. Because logos are super recognizable, and one of the most recognized symbols in football just became part of a pretty interesting trademark story. Grambling State has now trademarked its version of the Power G.
Yep. So the U.S. Patent Office registered Grambling State University and its Tigers athletic program the G mark for use on apparel and merchandise and all that jazz. If you don't know much about Grambling State, they are an HBCU, one of the most successful black college football programs in the history of college football. They've put so many guys into the NFL. They had a great coach, Eddie Robinson, who was there forever. Very, very successful program, and very recognizable. And so this was a big deal for them to get their patent to be able to maintain and use that logo going forward. Now, when this happened the other day, immediately there was lots of discourse online. Oh, Grambling has this. What's Georgia and Green Bay? What are they going to do now? Well, let's pump your brakes a little bit.
Pump the brakes.
Because that logo is already trademarked by both the Green Bay Packers and the Georgia Bulldogs. So this ruling really allowed Grambling to have their own mark and to maintain it. But it came after they actually cut deals with both Georgia and with Green Bay to make sure it was okay. So Grambling State and the Packers, they and Georgia, they chose different paths to get there. Both schools already had, the registered trademarks for the stylized G and the oval design. So part of the Packers agreement, which was signed in September, was brief. It just said that the parties are aware. The parties are unaware that there's actually any confusion between the marks. They have different colors. Very clearly, the colors are associated with the schools. And as long as they're used in the manner that they were intended to be used, there shouldn't be a problem. Grambling pledges to only use its mark in the colors of black and gold and will not interfere with green and white and, Green Bay's colors. My screen's freezing. And then the Grambling State and Georgia agreement was a little bit different. Grambling State agreed to only use the G in black and gold color scheme and won't use it in conjunction with the color red or any combination of red and black at all. So that's the language there. It allows them to both have their versions of the trademark, use it, sell t-shirts, sell stuff, and not get on anybody's toes. And if there is any confusion, then they'll get together and talk about it without it being ugly.
Yeah, I think people only get confused depending on the region you're in. Funny story. Right after high school, I took a trip to New York City, and this was back when MTV had Total Request Live there in Times Square, and we're walking by it, and I always wear a Georgia hat or something, and got the big Georgia G on it, walking down the street. This girl comes up. She's like, "Oh, Green Bay Packers." I was like, "Sorry, no. This is Georgia Bulldogs. It's red and black."
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the issue, though. People don't really understand the history of the logos between the Green Bay Packers and Georgia. So here's a little bit of history lesson for you, for our listeners tonight. And as Georgia fans, be proud to know that Georgia did everything the right way. So the Green Bay Packers first started using this design of a power G. It was designed by John Gordon in 1961, and the G was meant to symbolize Green Bay, often mistakenly cited as greatness. People thought they put their G on their hat to say greatness, but no, it was just Green Bay. And so, yeah, that's the story.
Greatness Bay. I mean,
in 1964, when Vince Dooley came over and took over as the head coach at Georgia, he really wanted a new design. Before, Georgia just had plain helmets with like kind of a block G on it. And his assistant's wife, Ann, suggested that they create a design that was similar to Green Bay's, but slightly different in shape. And so what Georgia did was they actually went and requested permission from the Green Bay Packers. So that's one of the things you often hear. People are like, "Oh, Georgia stole Green Bay Packers logo." Actually, they didn't. They went and asked before they did it. And their version was actually slightly different. And so they were granted full permission to do it, and they created their own version. Grambling State in the 1970s started using the Power G. It was a tribute to Pro Football Hall of Famer Willie Davis, a Grambling alumni who played for the Packers in the 1960s. So that's where they started using it. But the interesting thing that people don't know is people say, "Oh, Georgia just copied Green Bay. You know, it's the Green Bay logo." Actually, when Georgia first created theirs, it was different shape. It was slightly smaller and thinner. And in recent years and over time, the Green Bay Packers have actually changed their logo to look more like Georgia's version of it. So
that's pretty funny.
Yep. So that's the history of the Power G logo. You know, one G to represent them all. A great logo. And, you know, if anybody ever gives you gruff as a Georgia fan about you stole that from the Packers, well, now you got a little story to get back and say, actually, you know, Green Bay kind of copied us a little bit in the end.
I like it. All right. Anything else?
I think that's it for tonight, man.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. This is the Nitro College Football Show. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, tell other college football fans about the show, get the word out. We are here every week. We appreciate everybody sticking with us late tonight. And until next time, I'm Burl.
I'm Street.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.